Now imagine people, you got a safe seat in pretty safe seat in the in the Senate of the federal government, and then you decide I'm gonna go for a member for Parliament. I change houses, and I'm gonna do that in the seat of Braddon, our seat that King Island is part of, where for many years, if not decades, the Liberal Party was always the strongest. Daring? Well, she did dare because we're going to talk to Member for Parliament now, Anne Urquhart, and welcome.
Hi, Wade, and it's lovely to talk to you. I'm disappointed I'm not actually on King Island talking to you, but I will get there very soon once I'm actually officially declared as the member.
Is that going to be harder, Anne? Being as a senator, was it easier to visit the island than, say, when you're a member of Parliament? Because we don't often see members of Parliament here on the island.
Well, I think, as the Mayor often says, when I visit, I'm the most frequently visited Member of Parliament to come to the office, to come to the island, and uh, that's not going to change. I will still come to King Island regularly because I love coming over, but I think it's also important when you are an elected member that you come and you listen and you talk to people. You do represent them, and it doesn't matter what part of the electorate. You should be able to make yourself available to every part of the electorate, and I am going to continue to do that.
Now, brutally honest, Anne, before this election, you done a lot of work in the campaigning. You also came to King Island as I think pretty much the only candidate that we saw for the electorate of Braddon. So good on you. How did you see your chances of winning in percentage? Were you like, oh, I win this easily, or were you more like 50-50 or?
I think I referred to myself, Wade, as the underdog, which I was. I had an 8% margin to get over the line here in Braddon. 8.3, I think it was, that the previous member had. Um, I obviously I gave myself a bit of a chance, but I was never confident that I could get over the line because of that size of the margin. And I thought, even if I do, manage to get over the line with preferences or whatever, then it might be a very small, maybe 1% gain or whatever. But to see the result with a 15% swing was just, and the biggest swing right across the country was just incredible. I just was blown away by that, and as I said, in previous interviews that I've done, I just want to thank the people of Braddon for putting their faith in me to be their member and their representative in the federal parliament. I was actually blown away by it. I was watching the booths as they come in. Obviously, the smaller booths come in early on the Saturday night. I was sitting around a dinner table with some good friends of mine who were receiving the messages from the scrutineers that were coming in regularly, and he was getting a little bit excited, but it was only the very small booths, and I thought, there's bigger booths and you just don't know what happens. But as we started to see the bigger booths coming in, it was starting to look, very positive. But then at the end of the evening, once I'd realised just how big the swing was, I was just absolutely blown away and absolutely stunned. I never imagined that it would get to that point.
Was it also that because most of the time when you have federal elections, very carefully through the ABC and the information we get, it's usually the loser will admit his loss and the winner will claim his victory around midnight, 11:30. Was it almost like this is too early? By 8:30, 9 o'clock, it was already, yeah, sorry, I lost.
Yeah, no, I think it depends on the elections. I mean, the previous election we knew early that we'd lost in 2022, that we'd lost the seat of Braddon. But again, it's almost like, I knew, and I think I said in my speech at the Ulverston Footy Club where we had the event, I said to people, it's looking very positive, it's looking very good. But at that point, I wasn't claiming victory because I think you just have to make sure that everything lines up. And at that point, I wasn't confident enough or, aggressive enough to actually say I've won. I wanted to wait and see, what the bigger picture looked like.
Now, I had a few people that asked me and said, now, if Anne would have lost, would it have also meant that, would it have meant that she would have left politics, or could she have gone back to the Senate? What was the story there?
Well, I would have left politics. I'd resigned from the Senate. I resigned the day that the Prime Minister called the election, which then created what's called a casual vacancy because there was still 3 years left on my term. And the filling of that vacancy is a matter for the Parliament, a matter for the state. So, I may have been asked, but I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of people that look at those opportunities. But, I was prepared to run for Braddon. And at the end of the day, if I lost, I was prepared to, concede that my life in politics was over.
Now, can we say that the last 3 or 4 days have been crazy days?
I think you can say that without any doubt. I have had so many messages, so many emails of, people contacting me, congratulating me, obviously, people wanting meetings. I've had so many people wanting meetings yet, and I'm not even, we haven't even had the declaration of the polls. So officially, I'm not able to do any of that stuff. But it's been pretty crazy. I'm just currently sitting in a little shop front in Burnie, which I used as my campaign office. I'm here tidying up. It's lucky you can't see what's around me because it's a bit of a mess. But it's been amazing. I've had people coming up the street here, knocking on the door and just opening the door and saying congratulations. So it's been a real whirlwind. I've managed to sleep in till probably 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning, which has been lovely. But still, doing a lot of radio, a lot of sort of interviews and things like that, which I love. And I think I'm back to my full energy levels now. I was a little bit tired just a little bit after the election, but as I said, I managed to get a few good nights sleep, and I'm back ready to start work all over again.
How many marathons have you walked, you reckon, during the campaign?
Oh, many, many. I don't run, so I'm not sure that I could consider them marathons, but I haven't looked at my steps. But I did a lot of walking, a lot of door knocking, a lot of talking to people, and I loved every minute of it. Even, towards the end of the day when it was starting to get dark and it was 5:45, and we thought, should we stop? And we thought, nah, we're just going to finish off this street, or we're going to finish this cul-de-sac. And, people were very courteous, very welcoming. So many people who said to me, no one has ever knocked on my door before, and they were just really grateful for, the opportunity to have a candidate or someone who was representing a candidate to actually come and knock on their door and have a chat to them.
Now, I'm sure you were saying that being very hectic, I'm sure you had some great support from volunteers and your own staff too, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, my staff basically, the majority of them lost their jobs, when I resigned. The others in the electorate office are still undertaking work, and they will continue to do that, but they're not. I'm not their employer anymore. But look, I had an amazing amount of volunteers and supporters who, joined me every day on the campaign trail. I had the, amazing people who walked miles with me, organised meetings for me, put my diary in, kept me busy, which is what you need to be. But I am someone who has, a high work ethic, and I love hard work. So it wasn't hard for them to keep me, on the straight and narrow and keep me going.
Now, it's early days. What do you think of a ministerial role? What if Anthony Albanese says, "I want you to become the minister of," who knows?
Yeah. Well, look, we've got a caucus. I'm off to Canberra tomorrow, and we've got a caucus on Friday, which will determine the ministry. Obviously, if the Prime Minister wanted me to, then I would be happy to. The process is that you put your name forward, you nominate. I am just absolutely stoked. Right now, my thought is I am very happy to be the local member. Again, as I said, I'm just ever so grateful to the people of Braddon for putting their faith in me so overwhelmingly. And I am happy to do whatever role that I've had. I've been like that throughout my entire life in any job that I've had. I've always been very, very happy to do whatever role I've been asked to do, and that won't change for me. I want to stay really close to the electorate and be able to get out and talk to people and listen to people and hear from people. So again, I am just really happy to be the member for Braddon.
So you reckon that when you are a member of parliament and not in a ministerial role, that you have a bit more time and possibilities to be in your electorate?
Absolutely. I mean, the drag on you is not as great, obviously, because you're just dealing with your electorate. You have more flexibility in terms of getting around the place. You're not dragged, not as much travel and that sort of stuff. So I'm really happy to be based here and get out and, as I said, visit every area from, as I said, I think on the election night from Port Thurell to Marrawall, from Curry to Queenstown. That is the length and breadth of this electorate, and it's an amazing place. It's a beautiful place, every part of it, and I just want to spend as much time as I can. Obviously, I have to go to Parliament. When Parliament's sitting, which I absolutely enjoy that part of it as well. But for me, being in the electorate is the really important thing. People have elected me to be their representative, and I want to get out to as many people as I can to make sure that I represent them and do the job, in a worthy fashion.
Now, I know for sure that one organisation is happy with your election, and that must be Phoenix Community House, because
Yeah,
there's a little promise waiting there, isn't it?
absolutely. And look, we made some amazing announcements during the election. We focused predominantly, and if people were sort of watching the stuff that we did, we focused a lot around health and making health more accessible and more affordable for people. But Phoenix House is a fantastic organisation on King Island, and it's a community organisation where members of the community are welcome with open arms, and I know that a lot of the community spend time up there at either Phoenix House or at the Man Shed. And the announcement we made there for around $81,000 was in relation to putting in amenities in the garden, which has been long sought for. Um, and obviously the playground for the kids, which is really important when parents or carers take their kids up there. They want to be able to sit down and have a conversation with an adult, or just maybe get something off their chest or reach out for help. To have the kids being able to run down, play on a playground, and make that sort of transition to people having a conversation much easier, I think is really great. So I know Sally, when I made the announcement, and the people up at Community House were very happy. So I can't wait to see that sort of transpire into a building with amenities and a playground. It'll be really exciting.
Whatever you hear around the nation, not only in Tasmania, even on King Island, cost of living, housing cost, do you think that no matter who was going to govern, do you think that we can solve this over the next, say, couple of years with the high prices of houses and around the world, cost of living and housing has gone up? Can we ever solve that issue?
Well, look, I think I'm not sure about ever resolving it, Wade, but to be honest, I think the issue is that what do you put in place to try and make it easier for people to live and provide a home and those sorts of things. So, we started 3 years ago with a really bold agenda on housing with the Housing Australian Future Fund. We were stopped, by the Liberals and the Greens in the Senate of putting that legislation through for a very, very long time. That put us back. We went into the election campaign where many of those social housing arrangements were not signed off on because the Liberal Party said that they would get rid of the HAF, the Housing Affordability Future Fund. So everything was left in limbo. We are absolutely dedicated to pushing on. We've announced the 5% deposit and a whole range of things for people to make it easier to get into housing. We obviously need to build more houses, and we've got a really bold agenda to do that. Cost of living is an issue, as you said, all over the world. It's not just limited to Australia, but we have looked at how we can help, and a lot of the policies that we put through in the previous term of government, but also in the election, things like cheaper medicines, where people can get 60-day scripts, where we've frozen the PBS cost to pensioners and we've brought down the cost of PBS to $25 for other medicines, all those sorts of things, energy rebate, and there's another two of them that we put through in the budget back in March when we sat. All those things are designed to assist people with, the cost of living. And I know cost of living on King Island is extreme as opposed to the mainland of Tasmania. And the freight equalisation announcement that we made, which is $95 million to assist operators or those who use the scheme to get better benefits, will, I know, hopefully assist with, the freight and the cost of goods that get delivered to the island. And all that while undertaking a review, and we've committed to a comprehensive review of the freight equalisation scheme. And that'll be one of the things that I'll be pushing really hard with the Infrastructure Minister, is to make sure that we get that review started as soon as possible, and to look at what opportunities we have to make that scheme a much fairer and better system for, the whole of Tasmania, but particularly for King Island, who rely on it so heavily to get goods and services to the island.
A big win, but I guess also a big load of work for you ahead in the next 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to every minute of it. As I said before, I love working hard. I have a bit of OCD every now and then. I have to keep moving, but, I've never been afraid of hard work, and I've got lots of energy. I don't know where I get it from, but I do eat well and sleep well. So I guess that's a good measure. So I can't wait to, for the declaration of the polls and to get into it. And I think once that happens, I'll be on King Island as soon as I can.
The new name, Labour Member for Parliament for Braddon and Urquhart. We thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Wade.